I'm Kurt with GetintheRobot, and we've made babies from students and pro heroes. Now it's time for villains to get their due. Toga Dobby shippers, stay tuned. Let's brew up some terrifying tots. In the Force training arc, Mr. Compress showed off his ability to turn people into marbles. And then there's Twice, the multi-man with an identity crisis. Two long-time League of Villains staples with widely different powers. What combinations can we possibly make between a quirk that shrinks something within a marble and one that lets the user clone things? Well, combine Twice's ability to copy something with the size reduction component of Compress's quirk, and what do you get? The ability to make teeny tiny copies of anything you touch. Okay, you might not have a reason to shrink down your car or something, but imagine doing it to someone else or yourself. You basically get an Ant-Man if Ant-Man could clone himself. Still not sold? Well, I think this quirk could have a lot of benefits. For starters, it would definitely help knowing the clones are all small and the user is not. This kid would never confuse themselves for the original, so they don't have to worry about a full-fledged identity crisis like their dear old dad had. And since they're a villain, presumably, they now have access to a squad of expendable mini-me's to do their bidding. They can do things like climb into a lock and pick it from the inside, or hide in important places and gather intel on targets. Not too bad. Spinner may be a staying wannabe, but he still makes my list. And since he's kind of goofy, I want to pair him with a really intimidating villain. Muscular. We saw Muscular attack Deku during the Force training arc. This guy is relentless, muscle-bound, and a villain to the core. But what if we combine Muscular's ability to augment his muscles with Spinner's lizard form? Okay, so for now, I can't find the specifics of what Spinner's quirk are beyond lizard guy. His civilian name is based on the Japanese word iguana, so let's say he's an iguana man. Yeah, that's definitely better than lizard guy. Since Spinner has the traits of a lizard, I'm going to make a wild assumption and guess that he probably has lizard's regenerative powers. So if we take Dad's scales, spines, sharp teeth, and regeneration, and combine it with Dad's ability to horrifyingly sprout functional muscle fibers, we can start workshopping some combos. The most obvious is to slap Muscular's insta-ripped quirk onto Spinner's iguana form. Their kid would start out small, looking like Geico Gecko, and then bam, they're colossal. Maybe we can call their quirk Komodo Dragon or something. Of course, their head would probably stay comedically tiny while their frame gets gigantic. So why would their head remain comedically small? Because I'm the one making the babies, and I think it would be hilarious. But also, if you look at Muscular, his head stays the same size when he buffs out, so this isn't 100% headcanon, okay? Let's matchmake two more League of Villains mainstays that might make for the weirdest and creepiest combo yet. Magnetic Menace Magne and Moonfish. You know the guy with the teeth? I don't want to think about this rejected Hellraiser Cenobite guy rearing anything, especially not a child. Let's just imagine the best case scenario of Moonfish having absolutely nothing to do with what's happening here beyond his hellish extendo razor teeth getting passed down. So the first thing that leapt into my mind is deeply rooted in my own fear of the dentist. Since Magne can attract objects and Moonfish is all about them chompers, what if their baby could use magnetism on teeth? He'd be called Root Canal, and either he'd be a super creepy villain or a super misunderstood dentistry student. Considering that teeth are pretty much made of the same thing as bone, this baby could also probably extract bones. Yeah. Icky. But for the sake of my sanity, I have to find a less horrifying alternative. Anyone in the audience a fan of the obscure X-Men character Marrow? I'm seeing a version of this terrible, terrible baby works similar to her. Marrow can overgrow her bones to snap off and use them as weapons. She's a lot like Kimimaro in Naruto. But when we throw Magne's abilities in the mix, we could see all of these extra bones, or probably, unfortunately, teeth, become magnetically propelled projectiles with deadly force. They could probably auto-sharpen too, since Moonfish's ability is technically blade tooth, or maybe magnet teeth. Imagine someone who can shoot their teeth at you like a railgun. Or don't, for your own sake. The next one might be the biggest actual ship on the list, pairing the blood-sucking shapeshifter Toga with the aloof Firebrand Dobby. These two will be together forever, I can tell. That, or they'll kill each other. These two quickly have risen to all-star status in the League of Villains, but their powers couldn't be more different. What kind of quirk would this deadly pair's kid wind up with? Dobby's quirk is easy to work with, since it's essentially fire creation and manipulation. The interesting part is how his quirk plays with Toga's. Combining Dobby's fire with Toga's shapeshifting ability creates a quirk I like to call Fire Form. I'm good at names. This baby will be made of fire, and they can shift and reform that fire into all sorts of things. Fire pillars, lakes of fire, convection tunnels, a big nasty elemental, stuff like that. They're basically like Ace from One Piece, or really any Logia type devil fruit user. Even being near this baby's fire bod, not like that. Assuming it's the unbelievably hot blue fire Dobby produces is a problem for sure. But who's to say this kid can't absorb and control the fires that naturally spread because of their power? Say they follow in their pop's footsteps and trigger a forest fire. Since they're made of fire, is the entire forest fire part of their body? Can they now transform into some insane fire snake that constantly gets larger as fire spreads? That would be rad as hell. Eat your heart out, Endeavor. Now let's look at the other half of Toga's quirk. The whole consumption of blood thing. She needs to chug a bunch of blood to activate her transformation, and the amount she drinks determines the duration of the transformation. But how do we incorporate the blood thing with Dobby's cremation? I'm thinking this baby can transform into objects at will, but needs to drink a human's blood in order to replicate their form in fire. It seems perfectly twisted for this disaster pair, and I gotta say, Vampire Pyromancer, that's a look. Okay, next up, I'm pairing two of the league's top offenders and Sensei's favorites. The Dark Cloud made manifest, Kurogiri, and the villain most in need of chapstick, Shigaraki. These two have been working together forever with a very close and kind of complicated relationship that bounces between master butler, but also student mentor. And one of them is also made of fog. Like I said, it's complicated. What's more, this is another pair with wildly different quirks without really any overlap. We'll have to get creative with our combos, but I'm feeling good about it. At least it won't be as terrifying as Root Canal. Nothing will be worse than Root Canal. So we're looking for some combo in between teleportation fog and being able to disintegrate anything you get all 5 fingers on. Let's start on the tamer side and imagine a quirk that would let this budding villain teleport anything they touched with all 5 fingers. It can start off all cute, like the baby grabs a toy and whoops, it's in the kitchen now, we're wacky. But what if they could grab something and teleport it directly into something else? Or someone else? Could they teleport a person into the space occupied by another person? Actually, that's really horrible, and now I hate this. But where does Shigaraki's disintegration fit into all this? Well, that's when the baby becomes a true nightmare. All right, so picture this. A hospital nurse walks over to a baby in the nursery. The nurse notices this baby has chapped lips and keeps scratching its neck. Concerned, the nurse puts their hand on the baby's forehead. The moment they make contact, a black void opens up around the baby and the nurse ceases to exist. And then we hear Present Mike's voice.
Evaporation wave. The user creates a portal that disintegrates anything that goes through it.
So anything or anyone that goes through that portal is annihilated. It kind of reminds me of 13's quirk, but more evil. But I think we'd be in agreement that even if a baby did do it, it would still be kind of cute, even though they'd be sending someone to their death. I wanted to end this with a bang by including the big one, the mysterious sensei only known by his quirk, the nefarious All for One. Problem is that what quirk do you pair it with the quirk that steals and bestows other quirks? Okay, now hear me out. I know this is a video for villains and villains, but what if we paired All for One with All Might with One for All? Just because One for All is historically used by heroes, it doesn't mean it couldn't get passed down to a villain. These quirks have a lot of caveats and rules, so let's start this Endeavor-esque eugenics experiment with one of my favorite things, wordplay. Now there's really only 2 proper names for the combination of All for One and One for All. One for One and All for All. And obviously these babies are twins, but what could they possibly actually do? Well, All for One can steal quirks from others, use the stolen quirks, and redistribute stolen quirks to others, although it almost never goes well. On the other hand, One for All can let someone store up immense power and eventually transfer their quirk onto someone else. One for One to me feels like a quirk that can steal someone's power and outrageously amp it up. We're talking max level world-breaking stuff with earth-shattering explosions and black holes tearing open, the usual OP superpower stuff. And what's funny is that I started with that one because it's the less crazy of the 2. Let's explore all for all. See, both of our parent powers have a feature that lets them pass on their quirks to others. When they combine, what if they could distribute their power in mass? And if they can steal powers from others and then distribute it to everybody? Everyone suddenly has every single quirk that All for All has collected, including All for All, letting them pass it off to everyone else. It's like Deku wouldn't be bullied for being so quirkless. Maybe All for All wouldn't be so villainous after all. Now, who am I kidding? It feels like a busted Magic the Gathering combo, some disgusting combination that was never meant to be, with disastrous and unintended consequences that manifest instantly. All for All just feels like a way to bring about the quirk singularity. Quirks that are so OP that no one can control them, and the fabric of society disintegrates as a result. Imagine a playdate with these villainous babies. Toga and Dobby's babies would just be burning shit up. Shigaraki and Kurogiri's babies would be teleporting all the toys out of existence, which would really piss off Magne and Moonfish's terrifying tot. And next thing you know, the babies will be playing jacks with their parents' teeth. Still, I think it'd be cute to watch a hard ass like Dobby get bested by his own kid. That's literally the only silver lining I can think of after making all these abominations. And I did it all for you, the viewers. You're welcome. I'm Kurt, and this is GetintheRobot, your anime watch list.